Welcome to the lift. All this month, we're talking about being destined for darkness and how sometimes this world is not all that it's promising to us. Last week, we talked about circumstances, and then this week, we're talking about how our relationships, our friendships, and our family can sometimes let us down big time. Today, I want to focus on a story of someone who had every right to complain about their friendships, but didn't. And again, that person's name is Jesus. Again, maybe you've heard of him, and if you've been watching The Lift, then you've heard about him a lot. But Jesus is now grown up at this point, and he's towards the end of his ministry, and he's hung out with these 12 guys pretty much all day, every day, for a long, long time. I don't know if you've ever lived with people for a long time, but sometimes they can start to drive you crazy. And I can remember back in college in my fraternity house, there were days where you just didn't want to be around anybody. And that's okay. Jesus did that too. He took some time off, but every single day that he was with these people, he showed them love. No matter what they did, he showed them love every single time. And at the end of his life, we see how some of those friendships turned very sour, at least by the world's standards. We see Jesus, and he's at the Last Supper, that famous meal that he ate with his disciples. And we see Jesus, and he's at the end of the meal, and then he gets a loaf of bread and some wine, and he breaks it, and he takes it, and he passes it around, and he says, "This is my body that was broken for you." And then he passes the wine around, and he says, "This is my blood, which was shed for you." And all of the disciples are wondering, Jesus, what are you talking about? Why are you saying that your body is going to be broken and your blood is going to be spilled out? We would never let that happen to you. And then Jesus looks around and he says, "I tell you the truth, one of you who is sitting here right now, who just ate with me, who's been hanging out with me for a long time, and who I've shown so much love to, one of you is going to betray me." And at that point, Judas gets up and leaves. And Jesus says, "Go do what you must do." Now, Judas betrayed Jesus, and not just in a backstabbing friendship kind of way. No, Judas handed Jesus over to be killed. This man that Jesus hung out with for a long, long time and gave so much love to, gave so much teaching to, and invested so much of his own life in, has just turned him over to be killed for no reason other than a little bag of money. And Judas was such a close friend to Jesus, and I'm sure Jesus felt betrayed. But Jesus could have gone around and he could have bashed Judas, and he could have said, "You would never believe what this guy did to me. You would never believe what's going on. You would never believe that this guy, this one that I've done so much for, guess what he did back to me." Jesus never did that. He never threw it back in his face. He never did anything like that. He still loved Judas, and here's how we know that. Because Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him. Jesus knew that was going to happen. And even though he knew Judas was going to betray him, he still gave Judas the bread and the wine. He still said, "Judas, I know you're going to betray me, but here's my body that was broken for you, and here's my blood that will be poured out for you, even though you are going to be the one to betray me." Now, he didn't say that specifically. He didn't pull Judas aside and say that, but think about it. Jesus knew what was going to happen, and he still chose to give that gift of his own life to Judas. I don't think that anything any of us has ever faced compares to that. We've never had somebody turn us over to be killed. We've never had any of that happen. And we've also never laid down our life for someone, even those people that we love. We've never given up our lives for them. Jesus had every right to complain about his relationships, but he didn't, because Jesus knew that he was not destined for darkness. Jesus knew that God works all things together for the good of those who love him, even when it seems like people really suck. Jesus understood that. He believed it and he applied it to his life. And because of that, he was able to become even stronger, even though he was later killed for his choice. You can do the same. You can understand that even when people really mess up and when people really let us down, that doesn't mean that we don't love them anymore. Because Jesus was the ultimate example. He gave up his life for the person that took his life away from him, who betrayed him to be killed. We've never done that. Sometimes our friends will let us down. Sometimes our significant others will let us down. And sometimes our family will let us down. But no matter what, we were not destined for darkness. This is the lift.
Hey guys, this is Derek Sword with your workout tip for the day. Just wanting to let you know how important sleep really is. In recovery, when we're talking about training for long extended periods of time or doing high intensity training, it's important to have 6 to 8 hours of sleep every single night, no excuses during training periods. The body recovers most when it's asleep, and it builds muscle during that time the greatest. Cortisol levels are increased, which allow muscle building and muscle recovery, so there's no excuse, like you just saw in the video, someone's still up at my house. So just remember, always get your sleep. Don't ever sacrifice sleep. That's one of the biggest things that we can have go wrong during the day. So this is Derek Sword. Remember, strength is more than muscles. This is the lift.